Welcome! Today we're diving into something really special. We're going to trace this incredible, emotional, and, spiritual journey through 5 ancient poems, Psalms 26 all the way through to 30.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to follow the psalmist's path, starting with a plea for justice and ending up in this amazing celebration of gratitude. Think of it like a 5-act play, a single, really relatable story. All right, you ready? Let's get into it.
Okay, so our journey starts with what I'm calling Act 1, the stand. This is Psalm 26, and wow, it's a bold one. It's basically a declaration of a life lived with integrity, a plea for God to step in and vindicate the psalmist because, hey, they've been faithful. And this right here, this is the heart of the psalm. It's all about this deep commitment to walking a righteous path, staying separate from the wicked. And it's built on this deep trust that God sees everything and will judge fairly. Now, it's important to get this. The psalmist isn't saying, I'm perfect, not at all. It's about having a sincere, consistent heart, a life that's really pointed toward God. So when you look at these themes together, personal holiness, sincere worship, avoiding bad influences, they paint this picture of a person whose whole life is basically an act of worship. It's all centered on sincerity and devotion. It's not just about, going through the motions or showing up at the temple. It's really about how you live your life when you think no one is looking.
It kind of makes you think, right? In a world that's full of compromise, this psalm really challenges us to think about where we draw our own lines. Okay, so from that foundation, let's move on to Psalm 27 and see how this integrity builds into something amazing. Unshakable confidence.
All right, Act 2, the fortress. So after making that stand for integrity, the psalmist's tone just soars. It becomes this incredible expression of confidence in God as the ultimate protector, the one who stands against all fear and all opposition. I mean, listen to that opening. It just sets such a powerful tone of absolute trust, doesn't it? The psalmist is saying, even if a whole army surrounds me, my heart won't be afraid. Why? Because their security isn't based on their situation. It's based in God. That is a pretty radical statement about where real safety comes from. But here's where it gets really interesting, and honestly, so relatable. This psalm isn't just blind bravado. It's not just puffing out your chest. You've got this bold faith right next to this raw, honest longing for God's presence. It shows us that real strength actually includes being vulnerable. You can be totally confident in God's power and at the same time be desperately seeking His presence. They're not opposites. And that's a tension that I think every single person of faith feels at some point. But as we're about to see in the very next chapter, sometimes that incredible confidence, it can give way to a moment of real crisis. And that brings us to Act 3, the cry. Wow, the tone shifts here, and it shifts dramatically. Suddenly it's this urgent, almost desperate prayer for mercy, for God to step in. The psalmist is afraid of getting swept away with the wicked, feeling this real sense of peril. But then this verse happens, and it's the turning point of the whole psalm. It just flips from this desperate plea to an absolute explosion of praise and gratitude. God is celebrated as a shield who actually hears and responds. And that shift, it's immediate, it's absolute, and it just speaks volumes about the psalmist's underlying trust. So what we're really witnessing here is this powerful journey from distress to deliverance. And it's all anchored in this core belief that God is a reliable source of strength. It's almost like the act of praying itself strengthens the psalmist's faith, even before they see the final answer. It's a great question, right? When you feel like you're not being heard, how do you shift your focus from the problem to the protector? Well, Psalm 28 seems to suggest the answer is in trust and praise. Now hang on, because the focus is about to shift again, from this very personal cry to a massive, universal vision of God's power. And welcome to Act 4, the revelation. Psalm 29 is just majestic. It's this incredible hymn that paints a picture of God's power using the image of a massive thunderstorm. It's all about His absolute authority over all of nature. And it's not just for us. It's a call for all of creation, even what it calls the mighty ones, maybe angels, to give God the glory He deserves. So listen for this. The psalmist repeats the phrase, the voice of the Lord, 7 times. And each time, it builds in intensity, just like a gathering storm. Let's kind of feel that crescendo as it builds. First, it begins over the great seas. You can just picture it, the God of glory thundering over these huge, chaotic waters. And then that voice crashes onto the land, and it's so powerful it just splinters the strongest trees you can imagine, the famous cedars of Lebanon, like they're nothing more than twigs.
And the power of that voice just echoes and reverberates through the whole world, from the deep forests to the empty deserts, shaking the very foundations of the earth itself. But then comes this beautiful, incredible conclusion. All of that awesome, world-shaking power, it's not meant to be a threat to his people, not at all. Instead, that power is the very source of their strength and, get this, their peace. It's just amazing. The same God who commands the storm uses that exact same power to protect and bless his people. And all of that brings us to our final act, Act 5, the celebration. So after the plea, after the confidence, the cry, and that incredible revelation of power, Psalm 30 is just a pure song of thanksgiving. It's a celebration for being lifted up from the absolute depths of despair. You've probably heard this verse before. It just perfectly captures the Psalm's whole message of hope and restoration. It acknowledges the reality of sorrow, that long, dark night of weeping. But it makes this powerful declaration that the sorrow is temporary and that joy is absolutely going to triumph when a new day dawns. And this just lays it all out, step by step. You can see the whole transformation at the heart of the psalm. It's this incredibly personal account of God's faithfulness, how he turns despair into celebration, how he turns silence into endless praise. It's a firsthand testimony of being brought back from the brink of death into a life of just vibrant joy. So what does that mean for us? Well, Psalm 30 is this powerful reminder that being grateful for what God has done in the past, that's the fuel for our faith in the future. It's such a powerful lesson on just how enduring hope really is. Thank you so much for coming along on this incredible journey through the Psalms.